Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend, astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel, Astro Assurance. Sometimes our decisions in life are made by us. Sometimes situations or our experiences help us take those decisions. Sometimes we have other people around us like parents, friends, colleagues or a spouse who help us take those decisions, help us make those choices. However, if there is an influence of one person stronger than anybody else, in fact stronger than even you, even when it comes to take critical decisions about yourself, then it is a matter of definitely sitting up and taking notice. Many times many couples go through the entire life with one spouse exerting maximum influence in terms of decision making on the other, even where the matter is related to the partner rather than themselves. So sometimes the wife may exert a lot of influence on the husband and also vice versa. Now, a marriage where the spouse is able to exert a lot of influence on the partner is not bad. In fact, I call it a good marriage. However, if the influence crosses boundaries and becomes control, then there is a challenge. So, how much of a control does the spouse have on you is important for the person to know whether the life decisions that they are taking or supposedly taking are being taken by themselves, or because of strong control of the spouse, they are being led into those decisions because of the nature of the spouse. Because this life of yours is a life where you are also living out your karma, and a lot of choices are given to you for you to make, and only one area of life or one person exerting a lot of control on your life to make those decisions and then you to be held accountable to that karma is not completely fair. Now, but even the planetary placements which give the control of the spouse are part of your karma, but that doesn't become the complete life that you are going to be living, because spouse is just one part of your life and not the entire part. And so it is important for us to know, are we under complete control of the spouse and are we living the life as directed by the spouse, or at least the most important decisions of ours, even if we don't agree with them, are being taken by or because of the influence of the control of the spouse. If you know that, then you will also know how to handle it and yet not spoil the relationship. I am saying this because being an astrologer myself, many of the astrological consultations also come about relationships where a couple is not going through the best of times, and they reach out for an astrological consultation about whether the marriage will survive, not survive. There is a challenge. Sometimes one partner gets in touch and asks, should I divorce this person? Should I divorce this person and move on to another relationship? Do I have a good second relationship? So they're trying to make a choice that if the second relationship is going to be very great for me, very good, then why should I continue in this one? So all those types of questions also come. So how do we know whether the influence of the spouse is beyond influence and gets into control? And basis the astrological placements that have been given to us. First and foremost, one simple placement is of how much is the seventh lord influencing the lagna itself. So if there is a strong influence of the seventh lord to the lagna by virtue of either being placed in the lagna or placed in the 7th house and aspecting the lagna, or placed anywhere but yet having their aspect on the lagna. For example, Saturn can aspect the lagna while being placed in the 4th house as well as in the 11th house rather than just the 7th house alone. And if it's placed in the lagna itself while being the 7th lord, that is another placement where the spouse plays an important influence or strong influence on the person because of influencing the lagna itself, which means that spouse's involvement on the person's general life, overall life is very great, is very big. However, just by virtue of the 7th lord being placed in the lagna or aspecting the lagna, does it become control? No, it doesn't become that. You need to have many planetary placements connecting the 7th house and the 7th lord to the lagna, and specifically those areas of life where the spouse is exerting more control on, to be able to say with more with more credibility that this is the case, the spouse is able to or is controlling you to a large extent. So let's talk a little bit about those placements. One, 7th lord being placed in the lagna or aspecting the lagna, placed wherever in the horoscope, is a strong sign of influence of the spouse or involvement of the spouse in many attributes of your life. Second, along with that, if the planet which represents the spouse, for example, for a man, Venus is also his woman in his life. So apart from the 7th lord being in the lagna, if Venus also goes into the lagna, then this is an even stronger manifestation that the person's life, overall life, is led by what the spouse or his better half wants him to do. If a malefic also gets involved, then that influence is beyond your control and you are not able to control that. For example, if Sun is the 7th lord and goes into the lagna, which can happen for example for an Aquarius native, and goes into the lagna, as well as if Jupiter is also in the lagna for an Aquarius ascendant native. Now Jupiter is not very well placed in the Aquarius sign, in the lagna. So your 7th lord is also placed in the lagna, Jupiter is also placed in the lagna, and if Mercury also gets into the lagna, then this could be that the spouse has a very strong influence on the woman, and she I'm talking about the horoscope of a woman here, and the spouse has a very strong influence on the woman, and in fact is very complaining, even analytical, and maybe has a strong ego, and there are many personality clashes also between the two. So this is a strong position of that. Contrary to that, if for a man, if Venus gets into the lagna, especially if it's in debilitation, say for example if it's the horoscope of a Virgo person and Venus is in the lagna, which is a debilitation sign, and if Jupiter is also placed in the lagna, again Jupiter doesn't do very well in Virgo sign, and because being the lord for a Virgo native, if that is placed and Venus is in the lagna, then this means that there will be tug of war between the partners for control, and the tug of war will be not only about overall life and what life decisions could be taken, but also about specific areas. For example, if Saturn is the 7th lord, which could be for a Cancer native or for a Leo native, and if Saturn goes into the 4th house, then this means that the spouse will not only have a lot of influence and control, but spouse will also make the rules and regulations in the house. 4th house is your own house, the house that you create with your spouse. So 7th lord Saturn going there, which means the spouse is bringing rules and regulations to the household, and everybody who lives in the house will have to live by those rules, will have to obey those rules. And so based on what planet is in the 7th lord getting into the 4th house, that influence will definitely come. For example, for a Taurus ascendant native, Mars rules the 7th house. If Mars goes into the 4th house for a Taurus ascendant native, then here, which is in the Leo sign, then here you can say that the person, the spouse tries to exert a lot of influence through their aggression or assertiveness, especially because the 4th sign is Leo and Mars is going into Leo, so double fiery energy, and being the 7th lord, so the spouse brings a lot of aggression in the household, wants the person to do the husband to do and family members to do only what they want, and they have a strong control over the spouse. And if Saturn also gets into the act, then rules and regulations are brought in by the spouse, and if the person does not follow it, then there is a lot of aggression, fights, anger, screaming, shouting, throwing things around, even getting into violence is such a placement. So it's important that one looks at what is the influencing part, what are the influencing energies. I remember a consultation where a couple were on a speaker phone and they reached out to me. I was on the phone the other side and we were talking, and the wife was asking me about certain decision that they need to take, and husband and wife were not agreeing on that decision. So when they are my old clients, so they got in touch and said, we want to decide, you tell us whether this is good for us or not. So because I knew about their horoscopes and a little bit about their history also, so I knew that the husband was taking all the decisions in the house and was not allowing the wife, and the wife was not in agreement of a certain one more decision to be taken, but the husband was hell-bent. So I told the wife that, when the decision about the decision, that they should not take that decision because it was not good. And then I was looking at the reaction of the husband, and the husband said that, but why not should I do this is good and that is good. He was supporting that decision. So I said, okay, if you consider me to be just an astrologer, okay, but if I can be a friend also to you, can I ask you to tell me what are the last 10 important decisions that you have taken together as a couple, so about your lives. So they said, okay, these are the 10 things that we did. They spoke on the phone. They said, okay, we did that, we did that. So most of the decisions were about finances and the career of the husband, then where their children should go to, whether they have to move a house, whether they have to buy a house. So those 10 decisions they put, and then I asked them, asked the husband, how many of these decisions you strongly favored and you felt you should do that? So husband said, almost all of them I favored and I wanted to do. Then I asked the wife, please be honest and please tell us how many of the decisions that you were taking around these 10 decisions were taken. How many of you were wholeheartedly in the decisions that were taken? So the wife said that there were just 2 or 3 which I was okay, but there were at least 7 to 8 decisions which I was not in agreement with, but my husband very forcefully said we need to take those. So I just went along with it, because otherwise there would have been a lot of problems at home. He would not be happy, he would throw tantrums, he would scream, shout, and I didn't want that. So I just allowed him to take his decisions. So I told the husband, see, she's under complete your control, and this decision also she is not able to tell you directly. So through this phone consultation, she is trying to get an external opinion to support what she is saying, and I agree with her that this decision that you are thinking about now, it should not be taken. So the husband thought for a few seconds and said, okay, from now on I will not force any decision on her, but this particular decision allow me to take. So this is the way sometimes, when people have stronger influence on the spouse, this is how they operate. Even after being told and made to realize that sometimes, whether through family friends or a family astrologer or whoever, they are yet not able to overcome that tendency which is there in their horoscopes. Now, one part is definitely there, that why do such placements come in a horoscope? There are 3-4 reasons. One is that we need to live that experience. That is a part of how we grow, spiritually we grow. So we need to go through that experience. Second, it is part of living a karma. Our karma is to go through that kind of experience in life, maybe because of shedding some previous karma. If you have been the person who has handpicked the husband in earlier life, probably it is your time to be under the strong influence of the husband in this life. So the karma is also an important part, where certain people will go through certain experiences in life, irrespective of whether they like to do that or not. There are some other placements also which are very important, basis which we can also see what is the influence, what is the kind of control. For example, if 7th and the 10th lord share energies or exchange houses, then it shows that the involvement of the spouse in terms of your career may be very strong. It could also mean that you found your spouse at work, or you're working in the same place and you got together, and that's why 7th house and 10th house are sharing energies. But if they exchange places, then it becomes more stronger, which shows that there is a more say of the spouse also in terms of career, what job you should take, what job you should not take. Maybe the wife or the husband counsels the person also in terms of how to deal with colleagues at work, how to deal with supervisors and all, and they become a sounding board also for the person. However, if a malefic gets involved, especially if Saturn gets involved or Mars or Sun gets involved in the equation, either by being placed there or by aspecting it, then there is a stronger control that the spouse has on the native. This is also made stronger when the nakshatra is also playing its parts. Sometimes a nakshatra like a Jyeshtha or a Ardra will give this tendency, and even a Magha nakshatra, because it's about the throne and about leadership, where the native will strongly exert their influence on the spouse and not allow the native to take a decision. The spouse will exert strong influence. So that is definitely there. There are also chances that sometimes there is a phase in life where the spouse may play a stronger part on the native, and later on things may also be better. That part is played by when the dasha of a planet which is aspecting the 7th house rather than being placed in it is on, and if it's a malefic, then during the dasha then there could be a chance that the person could be more controlled by the spouse. For example, the dasha of a Rahu or Saturn, when they are aspecting the 7th house, could be the time where the influence of the spouse is more on the native. A strong influence of the spouse on the native is also seen when the 4th and 7th house get connected, and where the 8th house also gets involved through sharing of energies. For example, 4th house lord being placed in the 7th house, whereas 8th lord also there, or 8th lord aspecting, then it could also mean that there are upheavals which are also brought in life because of spouse's strong influence. This becomes stronger if either Sun or Mars aspects the 7th house. If Sun is placed in the 7th house while Mars aspects it, then there is no way that the spouse will listen to you, and because of the wrong decisions of that the native takes because of the control of the spouse, unnecessary challenges, unnecessary obstacles, unnecessary issues crop up in life of the native. Sometimes the influence of the spouse could also be a good one, though it could be controlling. For example, for a Libra ascendant native, the 7th house is Aries, the 7th lord is Mars, and for the Libra native, if Mars gets into the 4th house, then Mars is exalted in the 4th house in Capricorn. There, 7th lord getting into the 4th house means the spouse is able to exert a lot of control and influence, and in fact use aggression for the decision making. However, exalted Mars also means that a lot of decisions come true also. Though the spouse may not be very happy, the spouse may be unhappy about that because of the strong control on the native of the spouse, yet by virtue of this placement, it definitely means that the spouse has more influence on the native, and most of the decisions are also being taken and pushed strongly by the spouse on the native, yet most of the decisions are also good, but the native is still not very happy because of the strong influence of the spouse on him or her. So these combinations have to be seen. A marriage which first comes to a break and then is reborn, or even if it's not broken but it's a reborn of the relationship, also is seen where some nakshatras get involved. For example, if Mula nakshatra gets involved in the 7th house, then in either by the 7th lord being placed in the Mula Nakshatra, or the Mula Nakshatra being in the 7th house, which happens for a Gemini ascendant native, where Mula Nakshatra is part of the Sagittarius sign. So here, if Mula Nakshatra is in the 7th house, and if the replacement of two malefics in the 7th house, then it is also seen that the marriage goes through a lot of upheavals, and there is a rebirth of the relationship. Either one relationship breaks and the other happens, or there is some big problem which comes in the life of the native, because of which the relationship almost comes to an end, and then there is some upheaval, and they both come to an understanding that this is not the way to live, and this is not the way to deal with the relationship, and they renew the relationship in a better manner. This could be either because of some trauma which happens in life, loss of a person, big upheaval, health of a person being. So there are various cases. And then what happens is, if the dasha of the planet, which is a malefic, starts, which is aspecting the Lagna, then the renewal of the relationship may happen. But because of that dasha, the dasha of a malefic who may be the 7th lord, then the spouse begins to take more control of the relationship, where the tables have turned now, and starts to exert more control. So depending on what placements are and what dasha plays out, what transits happen, there will be changes and ups and downs always will happen. But the placements which are in the Lagna chart to a large extent will play out, more so during the dasha and transits, but generally the tendency will be there throughout the life of the native, that the spouse will exert more control. Now, once I was a gentleman was consulting me, and I told him that you seem to be under a lot of control of the spouse, and he said, yes, I know. What should I do? Should I divorce the spouse and marry another one? So I was telling him, and this is true, that when you have this placement, then even if you go out of one relation and the other person also is more or less the same type, and you can't escape that. And so if you ask people who have had 2 marriages, even 3, they will not be very, very happy in the second relationship. There will be a lot of changes, but there will again be some area where they are not very happy with their spouse. If the control is a factor because of which one marriage has broken, the other spouse that comes in their life will more or less will have same tendency, but some other area of life that they would want to control. If one spouse wanted to control who you meet, who you don't meet, who you hang out with, then the second spouse may want to control your financial decisions. So that will definitely be happening, and that's why it's very, very important when you do horoscope matching not to rush into it. And I've seen that when that tendency is there, even the horoscope of the probable spouse will be where she is exerting more influence on you, or more on the native, or he is exerting more influence on the native. So their horoscopes complement each other. Native will show he is under the control, and the probable spouse will show that he or she is controlling the spouse. So you will have to go through many horoscopes before you eventually agree on a horoscope which shows that the other person is not a very controlling type of person, and they will be more good in the marriage. Then only you should go ahead with that marriage. However, the first 7, 8, 9, 10 horoscopes will be more or less the same. But if you are really destined to marry, then you will be against the suggestion of the astrologer and get married the person, because either you find the person is very beautiful, or come from a rich family, or there is too much family pressure. Some reason will force you to get married to the person if you are absolutely destined to get married to the person. So anyways, whether you are destined to marry a person or not, your planetary placements will tell you whether you are under control of a native or not, and to what extent the control is. Now, what can be done about it? Should you just give in? No. If you think the control of the spouse on you is not positive influence and negative influence, and you are not happy, then one thing which can be done to reduce the negative control and have a positive influence is by shedding the energy of the 7th lord. So whatever the 7th lord, donating items of that to a large extent reduces the malefic intensity of that. fasting and doing mantras of the 7th Lord increases the positive influence of the spouse on you. The other thing is to treat the spouse very well. If you are a woman, then keep the Jupiter very happy, treat your husband very well, and do more spiritual acts. Donating for somebody's education or to an educational institution helps. For a man, again, treating your Venus very well and respecting them strengthens Venus, but at the same time also giving a lot of respect to the opposite gender, treating all people of the opposite gender with a lot of respect, lot of consideration, even chivalry helps. And donating to orphanages where women children or the girl child is taken care of helps, apart from of course fasting and doing mantras of Venus. So friends, this is my analysis about whether you have a controlling spouse in your life or not, and what placements are there which signify that. Now that we have discussed that, look into your own horoscopes and see whether the horoscope is saying something which you are probably missing or you are probably experiencing. So friends, please like this video, please share this video, and if you want a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the links given below in the description box. Until some other time with some other video, this is your friend, astrologer and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.